Blair Show live. You know this is live, right?
No, I did not.
I'm just kidding, dude. It's not.
Time and type is always a question, but it's even more so the case with an experimental. I'd say the top two of any of that is number one's going to be price. I mean, as always, when you're getting into this, whether it be, the outright cost of the airplane or, the maintenance and parts costs. And number two, which we'll talk about later, is going to be insurance.
My name is Joshua Ryan Blair. I'm a private pilot, aircraft mechanic. And if you enjoy aircraft mechanics as well, make sure to subscribe. I like to, maybe first talk about your recent video, the certified versus experimental, and some of the differences to consider when purchasing, one or the other.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to get multiple perspectives on the situation because, like I said, I come from more of a certified background, and, all the while I'm looking at, 150s and like a Champ or something. I think, okay, this is about the top of my budget. It's about all I can do. What about this experimental thing over here? Let's actually take a deep dive into that and see. And, it turns out, it's not for everybody, but for the right person, the right situation, the right budget and mission, it might be the perfect solution. So it's definitely, if anyone's in the market for an airplane or starting a partnership, a club, anything like that, it's definitely worth considering both sides of it.
I agree. If you don't consider, you might overlook an opportunity that would have been better for you. There could be a perfect fit for somebody that just completely overlooked the option. So that'd be pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you said it perfectly. Opportunity. I mean, even though I have an airplane, I check Barnstormers regularly just to kind of keep tabs on the market of different models and see where everything is trending. I think it helps me be better informed because, as you know, with having the YouTube channel, there's all kinds of questions and everything you get. And I think that helps me be better informed to help other people kind of pursue their dreams with this aviation thing. Every day I see projects that, maybe they were partially built, maybe they're never finished. Maybe they had some kind of engine problems. Maybe, they just sat for a couple of years. When I started the channel and I decided I wanted to film it and share this, my main goal was to hopefully inspire people to kind of take a second look at those dusty projects on there, and a lot of times they are experimentals. What possibility is out there? What can somebody get into for honestly not a lot of money, and they can live their aviation dreams for a lot cheaper than they ever thought they could. And I know I'm case in point. If you would have told me I'd be owning my own airplane even just a couple of years ago, I never would have believed it.
Maybe one or maybe two things that you would say were the most interesting from the feedback you've gotten from your recent video, the certified versus experimental.
I'd say the top two of any of that is going to be number one's going to be price. As always, when you're getting into this, whether it be, the outright cost of the airplane or, the maintenance and parts costs. And number two, which we'll talk about later, is going to be insurance. And that's a big one. That's one I did not realize before I went down this path. I wish I would have. And that's something I hope all of your viewers will kind of have a good idea of that before going into a purchase, because it is a big deal.
Yeah, it's definitely something to consider. It's going to have a great impact on your fixed cost for the year. That's where it might be the deciding factor for some, where it makes sense, and where some others it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not yet an EAA member, if you're a member and you've never gone to a chapter meeting, whatever the case is, go to that local airport, go to that chapter meeting and meet some of your fellow aviators. Because they're going to have all kinds of experience, and everybody has their own opinions, of course, but they have their own actual experience. In the certified versus experimental market, they're going to have real numbers for you on the insurance aspect. Somebody there or a couple people there might have the exact airplane you're looking for, and they can tell you everything that you have to look out for once you're going down that road.
Yeah, maybe just a couple comments in regards to, price.
There's a couple of people who they're A&Ps like yourself. If you're an A&P and you buy certified, now you can do your own maintenance. And of course, certified, your parts are going to be a lot more, or generally a lot more, but at least then you're able to do your own maintenance. And that's something, honestly, if I was an A&P and, it's on the bucket list, I'd have to look even harder at certified than what I am now. Dale on Facebook, he said he switched from a Piper Cherokee 140 and he went to a Vans RV6. And he said he'll never look back. Speed, efficiency, and most importantly, maintenance are like night and day. He's referring to, being able to do it himself with experimental and also, the price standpoint.
You really have to think about where are your savings beyond the initial cost?
One of the points with the video was you really have to narrow down what your mission is, like your actual real mission, not, what you think you're going to do. What are you actually going to do? What do you actually want to do? And in my case, it was just, I wanted to fly more often. I used to own shares of a couple 172s, and, we moved up to this area, and, it's the GA scene is completely different. And, to fly the same airplane is about double what I was doing before. And so it just, for that mission, that set, what I wanted, just bare bones, it made sense to go experimental. And even the Sonex that, it burns 4 gallons an hour, and you can run avgas, you can run a blend with avgas and MoGas. Like it's hard to fly any cheaper than that. Like,
you made another good point there. So it depends on your mission, but also how much do you plan on flying?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because the more you fly, your fixed cost just gets less and less per flight hour. Say your insurance is another $1,500 a year, but if you're going to fly, 150 hours a year.
And as an A&P, machines need to be run, needs to be maintained, or you're going to be spending more in the long run for sure.
It comes down to an individual basis of mission.
Will said, I want experienced experts working on my plane and the benefit of fleet experience. And that is a big one. That is something I didn't know was, just because somebody is an A&P doesn't mean they have any idea what a Sonex or whatever experimental is. And because of that, may choose not to even touch it, say to do a condition inspection or whatever. Mm-hmm. Without having that experience, that changes the equation too. And so that's something that needs to be looked at before hopping into it as well.
Matt, let's hit a little bit on insurance real quick on what you have, I guess, learned and some feedback that you've gotten on that. We know that the price is definitely higher for experimental. How much difference are you seeing, and what kind of feedback have you got on, I guess, that specific question?
Well, and it's a big one. This is what I always try to cover with people who are considering this route. So I have a buddy that has a Cessna 150, probably a quarter of my flight time. And yeah, I think most of his is time and type, but he pays $500 a year, hull and liability, for his insurance. I mean, that's phenomenal. That's great. For the same situation in my Sonex, we're actually, I'd say we're actually valued about the same. I was getting quotes anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 for hull and liability. That is quite a bit different. And in the case of a certified, time and type is always a question, but it's even more so the case with an experimental, because it's proven, but it's not as, in their eyes, like say to the underwriters, it's not as proven to them. And so for me, being the first year Sonex pilot, let's call it about $3,000. And that should, year to year, as my time and type builds, that should go down. But as we've seen with the insurance market as a whole, the prices have been going up across the board.
I've actually heard from my own insurance broker that the Boeing, impact of Boeing just this last year has trickled down, and how it's affected GA. And that was really a surprise to me, because I hadn't actually heard that yet. And this year in particular has been hit hard.
A lot going on with that one, but that definitely did trickle down to the rest of us. That is based on my research, some other things I've said. Not everybody's wanting to come out and say it, but as far as I'm concerned, the data says, yes, that is part of it. On the experimental side, one thing I hear a lot of people say is, okay, do I really need to get hull? My airplane's worth, 15 grand. I have a $4,000 engine. Do I really get hull? And to me, the big one's liability. That's the one. And I've known people that have survived incidents, and that followed them for years, was not having any insurance, no liability coverage, and, the legal fees, the issues. 10, 15 years later, they're still struggling because of it. In my case with liability, I was seeing between $620 and I think $1,700 just for liability. At the end of the day, what I came down to was I need to at least have liability. I know a lot of guys that fly with nothing, and if they're okay with the risk, they've done the analysis and say, hey, this is okay, more power to you. I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong at all. But for me in my house, we're gonna have at least the liability.
Yeah. All right, cool, Matt. Well, again, I appreciate your time. And
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me here. This has been a lot of fun.
yep, it's been good. And if you're interested in more of the experimental side of things, definitely want to check out Matt's channel. And I will actually put a link up here. You can check it out later, or I'll also put in the description. Until next time, guys, be safe and be blessed. And I will see you in the next one. Later.
Thanks, guys. See ya.